Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ambipongus, and we'll be looking through another day one match of the Cobblemon World Cup. This time, we'll be looking at a match between my own personal team, Roanoke, and our day one opponent, Cobblemon. While we did lose 2-1 for Cobblemons' favor in the first day, I did want to mention this game between Just Sanji and PopeOfArceus. As it was I think it was definitely a more so like defining moment, not only for a match to tie it up 1-1 as Cobblemons were up 1-0, but it bring forward an archetype that we never really seen afterwards. While yes, some people did bring the sand, as we see above on PopeOfArceus' team, they never really utilize something around it. And I think that's what sets apart this team from everyone else that tried to use Hippowdon or even Tyranitar and Signals. With that, I think I'd just like to get on with the team analysis right now. So, as I said before, Pope is utilizing a somewhat balanced sand weather team, utilizing the abuser of Dracozolt with Sand Rush and Bolt Beak, as that is able to dish out large amounts of damage if not prepared for, with some kind of electric immunity, which is ground type, or any electric immune abilities, or just even like electric resistance. Even then, Dracozolt does have some other options, like its dragon type stabs, which is able to hit other Pokemon that can resist electric types, more so the dragon types, as well. Obviously, dragon does beat dragon. Aside from those two Pokemon, we do see a bit of a more defensive approach to the rest of the Pokemon, with Garganacl and Tangrowth being some sort of defensive core on the team. Garganacl does get boosted by Hippo's Sand, as it's a rock type, and rock type special defense does get boosts 1.5 times in Sand. We do also see a bit of hazard game going on with Pope's side, with Fortress and Goldengo, and Fortress being able to also spin away any potential hazards on team, which is very important in this meta. Overall, it's definitely a balanced build, which is able to deal with a plethora of different team archetypes that are found within the tier. So yeah, I personally think it's really well thought out, but I'll let you be the judge on that, as I probably do have a bit of bias since this is one of my teammates. Moving on to Sanji's team. The first 5 Pokemon on the team, as you can see, does resemble a pretty basic hyper offense build, with Glamora being the lead hazard setter, with Stealth Rock and its ability Toxic Debris being able to set toxic spikes on any contact move. But there is also the ace in the hole, I guess you can say, with Alomola. Now, you don't really see Alomola on these types of hyper offense builds. Rarely ever, to be honest. I think this is the first ever Alomola hyper offense team I've actually seen. But to be fair, it does fit well within this current matchup, as there's going to be a lot of residual damage going on between sand, hazards, and chip from the defensive Pokemon. So having an offensive build which can threaten this team decently well, while having some sort of recovery support with Alomola to keep them alive and healthy to continue on this offensive pressure, I think it's a good matchup for Sanji in that department. Um, Other than that, it's just basic HO or hyper offense, as I said before. You got your set of Pokemon in Scizor, Volcarona. Annihilate and Meowscarada do not have any set of moves from what I know, or any viable ones. However, they can still provide offensive pressure. So, with that out of the way, we'll be moving on to the matches now. Now, we're at the match here. I decided to do something different from the last video with actually showing the live stream that the match was hosted in, as it gives a more personal Cobblemon feel, I guess, while also having enough time in between the turns to describe what is going on for any of you that may be confused. Also gives a bit of the chat's reaction to any hype moments or just stuff like that, you know, just enhancing the experience overall. Also use promo code Cobblemon to save 25% from Bisect hosting. You're welcome, I guess. Okay, something I didn't mention on the team analysis we did previously was lead matchups. So obviously, with Sanji's team, the most obvious lead with the Glimmora HO team is, well, obviously Glimmora to immediately get those hazards up and run. However, there is also a potential lead in Meowscarada, as not only does it decently threaten a lot of Pope's other potential leads, but in case they face something like a Tangrowth or a Fortress, for example, Meowscarada is able to just freely U-turn. Tangrowth may be a bit harder because of the potential Rocky Helmet it may be wearing, but the chip is fine, as you're still able to wish it off afterwards if Meowscarada does eventually get chipped down and wore down more. Pope's potential leads, there's two I can think of right off the bat. Hippowdon to set up Sand immediately, and Fortress to get up some hazards against potential Glimmora, as it can handle those attacks, as Poison is immune to Steel, and, well, Rock is, or, well, the other way around, Steel is immune to Poison, and Steel is resistant to Rock, so it can handle Glimmora's potential attacks more easily, and can threaten some kills with it with Gyro Ball. Garganacl can also be a potential option from Pope. However, I don't think he'd want to send out early as a lead just to get Stealth Rocks up, as it does seem to have like a good matchup, a good defensive matchup and profile against a lot of the members on the team, such as Volcarona and Glimmora is also one. Oh, that's really it. Well, either way, there's only two. One's a lead sacrifice, so yeah, it's not really that good of a lead now I'm thinking about it. Anyways, two potential leads, Hippowdon and Fortress on Pope's side, and on Sanji's side we have Glimmora and Meowscarada. We'll see how this develops now. Okay, so we see leads Hippowdon and Glimmora. So Hippowdon does have a good matchup here. However, Glimmora is also just free to get up the hazards here. Do keep in mind that Fortress can also get spin blocked by Annihilate, so Sanji may use that to their advantage here. And there's an ad that played, I'll skip that out. Okay, we're still waiting on the first turn. So right now, okay, so we'll see the Sanji switch out into Alomola against the Hippowdon, as Hippowdon just goes for the Earthquake, pretty standard. You see the Whirlpool from Alomola coming out into the Dragozolt. Dragozolt does threaten it with a Bolt Beak, however Sanji can just protect this and get a bit of extra chip with Whirlpool, and is able to just regenerate off the damage created with Regenerator. Preferably Sanji would like to switch out to a electric resistant Pokemon, as we do see Glamora come out. There isn't really any electric resistant Pokemon, because Meowscarada does not want to take any damage here, or not much damage. We've seen our Bolt Beak come out into the Glamora slot, and that faints, the first knockout in this round. But we do see the two Toxic Spikes get up with its ability Toxic 3, like we said before. So from this position, we can see here that Dragozolt can be especially threatening if not dealt with early on. A potential switch coming out. Scizor will be coming out. Okay. The Sandstorm is still up, so Dragozolt still outspeeds Scizor unless it goes for a priority move to negate the Bolt Beak's power increase. Pope does seem free to go for a Fortress switch here, likely, to get a Rapid Spin off. Does seem to be that way. We do see the switch out into Fortress, like we mentioned before. Bullet Punch comes out onto the Fortress, as the Fortress does reveal to be Rocky Helmet. So physical Pokemon will be having a more difficult time against Fortress, as it cannot use any contact moves. Until that thing is potentially knocked off, we will be seeing a lot of chip from physical mons. Pope does opt to go for a Spike instead of Rapid Spinning. Volcarona does threaten to kill this, so Pope will be switching out into their Garganacl as Sanji does Quiver Dance. I do think getting Chip onto Garganacl was a better play there. Sanji does switch out, noticing the threat of Salt Cure onto the Volcarona. And now keep in mind that Annihilate should be taken a bit lightly on Pope's side, as if you continue hitting this with Salt Cures over and over and over again, then we will see a lot of damage coming out from Rage Fist. You see Close Combat coming out onto the Hippo, as Chip from Toxic onto Hippo occurs, while Chip onto Sandstorm against Annihilate happens. We switch from Annihilate to Alomola as Hippo slacks off. Now this is where the Alomola Wish passing comes into play here for Sanji's matchup, as we've seen a decent amount of chip come out into Pokemon such as Annihilate. So potentially getting a Wish come out, but as Alomola does go for a Whirlpool to try to trap the Hippo instead, which is still a good play. Hippo does have Roar to negate that effect and switch it out, so it won't be trapped anymore. Fortress comes out on the Scizor as Scizor Sword Stances. Okay, just putting a bit of pressure there. That's fair. Scizor does opt for another Sword Stance again, as Pope does go for a payback onto the Scizor, just trying to get a bit of damage on it. I would like to mention the core between Alomola and Annihilate happening. As Annihilate does like taking direct damage because of its move Rage Fist. However, it does not actually like taking the damage from these direct moves, as you know, the HP will deplete over time. So Alomola will try to negate this negative effect while trying to keep Annihilate alive, as Rage Fist can stack up on base power boosts until it reaches its cap, and the boost will still be there even after it switches. So something to also look out for Popes in case that does happen. Okay, so we will see the Scizor try to 1v1 the Fortress here. As the Fortress will just keep going for payback, trying to knock out the Scizor. Scizor comes out again. Fortress will get knocked out, as Scizor will stay alive with 10 HP. So a potential Bullet Punch can do a lot to Pope right now. Pope does go out into their Goldengo, as Scizor does need Bullet Punch, doing just over half to the Goldengo. You can see even with the resistance, the Swords Dance boost can stack up quickly and do a lot of damage against the opponent. Volcarona does come out into the Goldengo, keeping up the offensive pressure and momentum. We do just see the switch from Garganacl, as Sanji does predict the switch into Garganacl, try to get a bit chip with Bug Buzz. However, Sanji does take it relatively well, or not Sanji, sorry, Pope does take it really well with the Sandstorm boost, allowing it to do just around a quarter of its health. Alomola will wish, as Sanji does set up the Stealth Rocks. The Sulk here is doing a good chunk of health, as Alomola slowly gets chipped from it, as Sulk here does 1/4 of the opponent's damage if the opponent's Pokemon is a Steel or Water type. We do see the Wish Patch go on to Annihilate, and while it does get Salt cured again, it is now back up to 83%. And Rage Fist can really do some damage right here. So Pope does need to shuffle around this situation a bit right now. What will he do? Pope will switch out into the Hippowdon, likely for a sack, which is a sacrifice, so Hippo can faint and bring in another Pokemon safely. However, Annihilate does still opt to go for the safe close combat, so Hippo will get another chance to live. However, Tangrowth does also come out onto the switch on Rage Fist, just trying to stay alive as long as possible to get most of the chip possible that they can, with the Sulk here still active, and Sandstorm chip as well. So Annihilate is now down to 27%, as Rayquaza can come in for relatively free and try start Bolt Beaking this. And keep in mind that now that the Dracozolt is poisoned, which, you know, does suck for it, it cannot get burned with Volcarona's Flame Body, negating a lot of Dracozolt's power through Bolt Beak. So really, I do think Pope does earn a bit there, even with the toxic or poison effect. We do see the switch out into Mola again, supposedly going for another Protect and Regenerator the regenerator HP gain as Dracozolt gets more and more chip. Alomola does go for the double protect, but it fails as Arceus does get a bullet peek off, leaving Alomola at 5%. However, Sandstorm Chip will knock it out. We do see the switch out onto Meowscarada, taking a lot of chip from the hazards, around a quarter of health. Just getting some real quick there. Hopefully that should be fine. Okay, now in this situation, Meowscarada can potentially outspeed if this is Scarf Meowscarada. And it does seem like that is Sanji's only solution in case that he doesn't want another member to faint. However, that Scarf reveal will definitely be shown to Pope, and he can act upon this reveal of Meowscarada potentially being scarfed. Going for a bit of weight here. We do see the U-turn come out onto the Dracozolt, which does indicate that this Meowscarada is Scarf, as it is able to outspeed. And it does bring in Volcarona well. Garganacl does come in on the Volcarona, threatening it with a 1-hit KO with Sawcure. Bugbuzz does come out, trying to get a bit of chip onto the Garganacl, as Garganacl Sawcures. While it does live on 2 HP there, the Sawcure effect will be able to knock it out. Meowscarada will come in again onto the Garganacl as it Flower Tricks into it. Garganacl will just live on 1%, being able to get another Sawcure onto Meowscarada, get some chip. Garganacl will go down, but not without great efforts to its name. Tangrowth does come in onto the Meowscarada. And if I read the number of feints correctly, this should be Sanji's last Pokemon. Tangrowth knocks off and knocks it out, and PopeOfArceus wins with 2 Pokemon left. So, this is a very, very close game, I feel. This definitely could have gone either way. However, Pope did capitalize more on that Dracozolt pressure onto Sanji, rather than the other way around with Sanji's Nihilape and Wisp Pashing with Alomola. The knockouts that Dracozolt got onto the party did leave Garganacl decently wide open to try and clean up the game against Volcarona and switching onto Meowscarada. I feel like the switch on the Sawcure onto Meowscarada with Garganacl living on 1%, while it was nice to see, I still think Pope could have very well won this even without the Sawcure, as Tangrowth was able to take on the Meowscarada one-on-one, with it being choice locked into Flower Trick, and Flower Trick would not be able to do a lot of damage onto Tangrowth. But either way, very nice games by both opponents. It does go to show that these archetypes, even if they're standard or even if they're unusual, well, not really unusual, uncommon within the meta with Sand, they are both still able to bring out a potential win on both sides. And I think that's what is going to be shown sometimes throughout the Cobblemon World Cup as players come up with new strategies in this never before seen meta, as players try out new things to beat the top threats or new strategies to get the upper hand, to surprise someone with it. I think that's what we'll see, definitely more so in the finals, as players ganged up together with their teammates and just try to think of something good. Either way, this is the video. Thank you for watching, and we'll try to get in another day one singles match, if there is any more that I can see. So yeah, take care.